Shooting in ProRes RAW is the best way to film on the new iPhone 17 Pro. You can get all the best quality video recording using the native camera app. All the new cameras are the same quality because they're all now 48 megapixels.
Amazing. Every word of what you just said was wrong.
The truth is, all these shill-tuber iPhone 17 Pro reviews remind me of your iPhone 17 Pro camera. No depth. Yes, it always gives me a bit of a giggle that for around 2 weeks at this time of year when a new iPhone launches, everyone pretends they've always been using iPhones for their professional work. Whereas I've been pretending to use the iPhone for professional work year-round since 2022. Don't believe me? Check the back catalogue. I've done the side-by-sides, the comparisons, featured the best accessories and the rig outs, and even shot a short film skit with the iPhone 12, putting it directly against a red Gemini in a test that nobody asked for and only an idiot would do.
You're shot on an iPhone. No idea what you're talking about.
What I'm trying to say is, he is him. He is me. I'm him. I'm the guy who uses iPhones for filmmaking. Forget about the filmmaker versus YouTuber debate. That's done. The new question is, can you even call yourself a YouTuber if you're not a legit rizzed up smartphoner? I've now had the opportunity to test the iPhone 17 Pro in a few scenarios, including a professional shoot, run its ProRes RAW mode directly against the ProRes RAW on a mirrorless camera to see just how close the quality is. I've unearthed the dirty secrets Apple don't want you to know about the 17's video modes, found the best apps and accessory to enhance your iPhone 17 Pro filmmaking experience, and basically come to bring the pain hardcore from the brain. So will this be the first iPhone to leap out of your pocket and onto a proper film set with you? Have we reached the singularity where mirrorless camera and iPhone camera have become indistinguishable? Well, maybe. Because as usual, I am filming on the iPhone 17 Pro right now. First, let's start by saving you some money. Thankfully, the iPhone 17 Pro and the iPhone 17 Pro Max are exactly the same when it comes to video specs. Same cameras, same shooting modes, same functionality. So if you don't need a bigger battery and a bigger screen, you don't need the Pro Max. And this year, I didn't get one. But yes, there are trade-offs to this, and I did notice that almost immediately, the battery life seems shorter than on my 15 Pro Max, so just take that into account. On the plus side, it's nice to have something smaller in your pocket. On the negative side, the extra screen real estate on the Pro Max actually can be quite important for filmmakers using ProRes RAW modes, but we'll get to that later. Let's talk about the cameras on the new iPhone. There are now 3 48 megapixel cameras on the rear of your iPhone, a 13mm, a 24mm, and a 100mm. In previous versions, they weren't uniform in terms of their megapixels, so you had the main 1x camera, the 24, which was always the best, while the other two were some ways behind. With this new upgrade, the quality, in theory, should be more even. And between the 13 and the 24, I would agree that they both look pretty similar quality-wise, but clearly, it's pretty hard to try and create a 100mm lens with this tiny sensor, and there is definitely still kind of a dramatic dip in quality when you switch to the 100mm. The footage, even at the highest quality, can look quite mushy. You also need to be over a meter away from your subject to be able to get focus with the 100mm, and while it does give you some depth of field, it definitely doesn't feel like a traditional 100mm lens. This is a little bit disappointing because what the iPhone is still missing is a really nice portrait lens that gives you the shallow depth of field you would hope for. This version is not that, and there is definitely a lot of inconsistency when you switch between lenses. You can't just tap the lens icon and go. You will have to recalibrate your exposure settings and quite possibly your distance from your subject to get something usable. It should also be noted that while not filming in ProRes RAW, you have access to a series of in-between digital zooms as you jump up through the lenses, which gives you a very useful 48mm crop lens and a 200mm crop lens. Especially the 48mm option is really useful when your 24mm feels too far away, but you don't want to dip the quality by switching all the way to that 100mm. When you switch between lenses while recording, you will get an audio dropout for half a second.
To bring quality care to children in my care, and
so it's not a completely smooth transition unless you digital zoom, where you can in fact go all the way to a 15 times zoom. But for pro video use, it is not recommended as the end of that focal range looks like digital garbage. The iPhone can now film in 4 different formats: the regular H.264 and HEVC, ProRes, and now ProRes RAW. And that is one of the biggest selling points of the new iPhone 17 Pro, the introduction of ProRes RAW for professional quality filming. The reality of ProRes RAW is it most definitely does not live up to the hype, nor is it really practical for filming most of the time. Also, strangely, you can't even use ProRes RAW in the native iPhone camera app. Some people won't even know they can have it. You have to download the Final Cut Pro or Blackmagic Design camera app to utilize Apple's most powerful codec, which is in itself a little bit weird. It's like an unlockable bonus character in Mortal Kombat. ProRes RAW is the noob cybot of the iPhone 17 Pro. Fortunately, if you're taking iPhone filmmaking seriously, you'll already be shooting using the Blackmagic Design camera app, which provides all the best features and customizability for filming with the 17 Pro. Once you're in the app and have switched to ProRes RAW, you'll notice quite a lot of things that don't really add up. First of all, when you put ProRes RAW up against regular ProRes, while there is less noise reduction, there is barely any more information. When you put them side by side in a grade, you're not noticing a dramatic increase in quality or a dramatic increase in the amount of latitude you have to push and pull the image. If something's overexposed, it's overexposed, no returns. And things do overexpose quickly. The lack of dynamic range becomes very obvious whenever you put it next to a real camera. It just kind of feels like it defeats the purpose of the iPhone's small compact camera. Massive unwieldy file sizes. This is something you want to use on holiday, something you can pull out of your pocket to capture the moment, something to vlog with behind the scenes. Do you really want to offload terabytes of data to film with a smartphone? But the compromises don't end there, because filming RAW means you lose all your digital zooms. Your camera lenses go back down to the 12, 24, and 100. And trust me, those additional fake crop zoom lenses are something that you will quickly come to miss. But the trade-offs keep going, because at this stage, ProRes RAW also kind of breaks the autofocus. This can be particularly problematic because of the lack of depth of field, and the relatively small iPhone 17 Pro screen means it can be very difficult to even tell if your subject is in focus. All these tests were ruined because the focus was slightly out, and I just didn't notice because on the screen it seemed to be in focus. And manual focusing with an iPhone is trickier than manual focusing a traditional camera. The best solution is to set your focus using the Blackmagic remote control with another iPhone or iPad to make sure this problem doesn't happen. But even if you set your autofocus, if you forget to lock it, you can get this awful pulsing effect where the camera tries to adjust the focus mid-shot, and you can see the focus breathing in and out. And that's not even the last of the trade-offs, because the other massive downside to RAW is that you don't get image stabilization either. Now, if you've ever tried to film with a smartphone with no stabilization, you'll know it doesn't really work. It is nice to be able to adjust your white balance and ISO in post-production, and it's nice to be able to configure your color space to any of the popular different log profiles from Sony and Canon and Panasonic, but those conveniences don't offset the drawbacks. RAW gives you not that much more color grading latitude, a loss of autofocus, a loss of stabilization, massive file sizes, less lens options, and oh, I almost forgot, you can't record it to the internal storage, meaning yet another rig out with a mini SSD drive strapped to your camera. There are just too many practical compromises to make this anything more than a bit of an Apple gimmick. However, there is one exception, and that is shooting with anamorphic lenses in ProRes RAW OpenGate. These shots were taken with the new freewheel anamorphic lens, which was sent to me for free to review, which is part of their new Pro Filmmaking kit. This is the 1.33 times anamorphic in 4x3 OpenGate, de-squeezed in camera. OpenGate allows you to get the most screen area possible with the smallest black bars top and bottom. Have a look at the difference when you film in normal 4K mode. And I have to say, this combo became my favorite setup for the iPhone. The lens comes with 3 different filters to allow you different colored streaks on your image: gold, blue, and neutral. It has a handy little locking screw to tighten when you have it leveled, and it can give you a really interesting look. The downsides to this lens are that yes, the anamorphic streaks can be a little intense, and you have to apply an extra ND filter if you want to stop down your image. But I felt like this combo paired with the 4x3 ProRes RAW really made the iPhone feel something more than an iPhone. Just to understand, you'll still have those focusing issues. You need to put your phone on a tripod at all times. But look at a few of these shots. They don't feel like a phone to me. And this is where you can take the image if you want. But for general day-to-day shooting, it makes much more sense to film in regular ProRes 422 like I am now, not even 422 HQ, and perhaps even going down to ProRes LT to save space. Ultimately, filming in any kind of ProRes does always reduce the over sharpening and some of the AI liberties Apple takes with your image when filming in the more compressed shooting modes. So it is worth doing, but just not in ProRes RAW. Another bonus to filming in regular ProRes over ProRes RAW is that you can film up to 60 frames per second with the internal storage, meaning you're not always dependent on plugging in that external SSD. Sadly, I feel like it's going to be the iPhone 18 Pro or 19 that integrates this RAW feature without all the annoying baggage. So if you are buying the phone for this particular mode, I would say it's definitely not worth it, and this is kind of a massive letdown. In fact, I was also very disappointed to discover RAW shooting or filming in 120 frames per second in any ProRes mode was restricted to using an external SSD. Now, there's lots of great mini solutions for having an SSD paired with the phone, which I'll get into in another video, but it does feel like an unnecessary step. The phone itself has a fast enough SSD inside it. Why are we forced to connect an accessory to it? The revolution of truly pocketable filmmaking phone kits is only revolutionary when they still fit in your pocket. Presumably, Apple are concerned about overheating the phone with the camera recording in these ProRes modes. But it feels like this is something they should have prioritized fixing in this new generation. We don't want to attach hard drives to our smartphones. It's just that simple. So is it worth getting larger internal storage knowing this fact? At first, I was very disappointed I'd chosen a 1TB version of this phone. But after some serious use, I've decided that ultimately it is worth having that storage. I'm recording internally ProRes right now. The truth is, most of us will only be filming in regular ProRes, and most of us won't need to film in 120 frames per second, except occasionally. So for everyday filming use, recording ProRes 422 internally at 24 frames per second is going to be the best option, which means that yes, having a bigger internal hard drive will make your life a lot easier if you intend for this phone to do a lot of serious video work for you. The other new addition to the iPhone 17 Pro is Apple Log 2. You can still film in Apple Log 1, and objectively looking at the two log profiles, there doesn't seem to be much difference, but as I understand it, Log 2 handles those highly saturated colors better, intense reds and blues, those colors that always seem to mess with your camera. So it's not a dramatic upgrade, and it's something you probably won't notice, but it is a welcome upgrade, one probably like switching between, say, Blackmagic Color Science Profile 4 to version 5, which also fixed a lot of issues with more intense colors. But strangely, perhaps the most exciting camera upgrade comes in the new selfie cam, the long forgotten reject of the iPhone cameras. The "you can't sit with us" of the iPhone camera family finally gets a great upgrade to an 18 megapixel camera. While it's still not as good as the other cameras, it finally makes using the selfie cam the most practical and useful way to vlog or film yourself without flipping the camera and not being able to see what you're filming. Not only that, but you get a square sensor which allows you to hold the camera vertically in a portrait orientation while getting that horizontal field of view, which means you can hold the camera in your hand more comfortably while still fitting in a majority of your surroundings. For vloggers, I can't help but think that this is one of the best upgrades in years. And for those of us who use our devices with a teleprompter app, recording yourself in selfie mode, delivering scripts to camera has now become super quick to do and offers a high enough quality recording that you can feel comfortable using this whenever you want to record quick pieces to camera and don't have time to frame yourself up using the front-facing cameras and go through the hassle of setting up a proper teleprompter. If you're on the road and feel like talking to your audience, but you want it to be scripted, this is such a great feature.
This is in selfie mode again, stuck in traffic still, but just wanted to try and see what it looks like and see what it sounds like. And this is the difference between what it sounds like in the traditional iPhone video photo app and the Blackmagic app.
If you come up with a genius short idea, just type it up and record it on your selfie cam. So rest assured, you're going to be seeing a lot more of this up-nose Jabba the Hutt angle mid-review from me when things occur to me in the moment on set. Now, technically not an iPhone 17 update, but just a general iPhone update is the previously mentioned Blackmagic camera app, which you'll be using for ProRes RAW functionality and additional features. One of those features is that you can make another iPhone or iPad a remote controller for your current iPhone. This is like the monitor and control app for Sony cameras, and you can actually sync multiple cameras to one remote controller. The controlling camera can preview what you're seeing, it can adjust any of the camera controls, and it can start and stop your recordings manually. And this was how I was able to film and frame myself when testing the 17 Pro. I would just connect my old iPhone 11 to the 17 Pro and control its settings while checking my frame. Now, I'm doing this with an old iPhone, but you can also do it with an iPad as well, which is super useful. You can also connect it to a computer. This is like owning an 11-inch wireless monitor for your camera, a camera which happens to be an iPhone. The latency is pretty good, and if you had multiple phones set up in a studio environment, or say you were recording 2 cameras in an interview setup, this new remote control and monitoring feature would be huge. Which leads us to another almost secret bonus feature of the iPhone 17 Pro. It lets you use your AirPods as a microphone to record audio to the camera via Bluetooth. That's right, no more connecting a little DJI mic mini or something to your iPhone. Just go into the camera app, go into this pull down menu and connect your AirPods to your camera as a recording device. It will do it automatically after the first time you've paired it. Now, I don't want to say this is the best new feature on the iPhone 17 Pro, but it has to be up there. Again, if you need to record something quickly and you want to talk to your phone, but you don't want all the surrounding noise, just put one AirPod into your ear and start talking. It really narrows the gap between an idea for a video and your ability to act upon it. Here's this feature with my AirPods Pro 2 compared to a regular wireless mic.
Okay, just super quickly, I wanted to do an audio test here. These are the AirPods Pro 2, and they're running directly in via Bluetooth to the iPhone 17 Pro. And this is what the audio sounds like. I've only got one of them in because you kind of want to be able to hear your environment, and they are noise cancelling. So yeah, if you have them both in, you're probably going to end up shouting. It's going to probably get a bit carried away.
Okay, and now we have just swapped directly over to the DJI Mic Mini. So the DJI Mic Mini is going now into the iPhone 17 Pro. Now I'm seeing that the audio levels look actually much healthier here. So again, I don't know how much this is going to affect the whole thing, but this is the DJI Mic Mini, so this is option 2. Now I'm going to be the first to say it does sound a little weird. Like there's this sort of auto-tune edge to everything thanks to all those noise reduction and processing going on in the background. You definitely start giving off major T-Pain auto-tune vibes.
Ooh, she got me doing the dishes. Anything she want for some kisses.
But considering how easy and quick this is, and the overall level of quality here, I think this is a killer new feature. And look, if you want to go crazy, why not give your other AirPod to someone else to conduct an interview with them? The only drawback is how willing they are to share your earwax.
Golly.
You could conduct a 2-person interview with just one set of AirPods? I'll let the audience give that one a try. But now, the million-dollar question, the same one we ask every year. Can the iPhone 17 Pro replace your regular mirrorless camera? Well, I conducted some side-by-side tests filming in ProRes and ProRes RAW on my Panasonic S1 II, and then running that side-by-side with my iPhone 17 Pro out in the wild. You can probably see that the S1 II still comfortably owns the iPhone, as you should expect it to. Yes, you can get some really nice images with the 17 Pro, but the S1 II just still has so much more dynamic range. And with a zoom lens on the S1 II and the 3-lens limitation of the iPhone when in ProRes RAW, it quickly makes you realize just how much you miss a proper camera. In these tests, I'm using a Freewell ND filter set, and I think this is the best option when you want to film with a fixed shutter angle, but it can be very fiddly to get your exposure correctly. Luckily, in the Blackmagic app, you do have false color to help guide you. And thankfully, the ability for the iPhone's ISO value to go all the way down to 54 now without an obvious loss in quality does help in tandem with the ND filter to satisfactorily control the light hitting the iPhone sensors. But the S1 II just retains so much more information in the highlights and shadows, and filming as the sun went down made this even more obvious. It should be noted that the 17 Pro is quite good in low light at around 1600 ISO. So if you like night shooting, like I do, you can actually get some really nice stuff with the iPhone 17 Pro. Moving into a more controlled environment, I thought this would be the perfect test for the new iPhone 17 Pro. And I had it rolling in ProRes RAW and ProRes while using it side by side in these interview setups with the Panasonic S1 II and the Panasonic S1H. Now this is a very tricky shoot because the light from outside is not consistent, and anytime you have windows in frame, you're asking for overexposure trouble. Of course, the S1 II does not sweat this at all, but the iPhone sensor just can't quite handle the dramatic shift in exposures between inside and outside. And no, shooting in RAW doesn't help in recovering those highlights. There's just not enough information there. Even in RAW on an iPhone, when good exposure goes bad, she's gone forever. So exposing for the talent means kissing goodbye to this window information. But in the wide-angle 24mm mode, honestly, I think the iPhone looks fine. No, it's not as good as the S1 II, but is it good enough to be your B cam? Is it good enough to record a whole interview with, even in a tough setup like this one? I think so. This is a perfectly reasonable image for me. In fact, I would go as far as to say, I don't think some of the older micro four thirds cameras like the GH5 would do any better in this type of high contrast environment. And that statement alone is crazy to contemplate in 2025. This is a tiny sliver of glass recording in this quality. But I must say that the S1 II versus iPhone 17 Pro here feels like gazing into the abyss. After a while, the abyss gazes into you. Does the S1 II start to look like an iPhone, or does the iPhone start to look like an S1 II? But where the iPhone falls back way behind is in the close-up. Just look at the gorgeous S1H here paired with a Sigma 90mm, blowing out the background, just chef's kiss for me as a profile shot. Now look at the iPhone using the 100mm lens shooting the same angle. Just looks very flat and blech. Not at all like 100mm, no real depth, and we're definitely getting the mushy kind of noise patterns across the face in what is a very well lit environment. There is absolutely no 3D pop to the iPhone's image. Go home, iPhone, you're drunk. And yes, this was a much worse issue with the older iPhone 15 and 16s, but while it might have improved, I'm just not sure I'm comfortable giving up the S1H look for this look just to say I'm a full-time smartphoner now. And look, if you were to shoot 3 iPhones to film a podcast instead of 3 mirrorless cameras, I can honestly see it happening. I was already experimenting with this on my iPhone 15 Pro, and the quality here has definitely improved. And so after looking at most of the new features that benefit filmmakers and seeing it compared to a real camera, is the iPhone 17 Pro worth the upgrade? Well, It definitely is for me, coming from the iPhone 15 Pro. The new selfie cam is something I'll be using frequently. The ProRes RAW edition, while very flawed, is still something I will utilize in certain situations, and ultimately, yes, I can see me using this as a B or C cam. Definitely not an A cam, but how many more generations will it take? Overall, the iPhone 17 Pro is probably the best smartphone filmmaking camera you can currently buy. It has a lot going for it. And if I could go back in time and bestow this on my younger self for filmmaking, I absolutely would. I mean, this was the type of video quality we were getting back then. And now we're complaining about the third camera on this thing that fits in your pocket. I mean, we have come a long way. But now, a word of caution. Because while I do love the portability and flexibility of filming on a phone, we should acknowledge how much an iPhone 17 Pro costs. With a 1TB storage upgrade, this thing is $1,500. You can buy yourself a secondhand Panasonic S5, a Blackmagic Pocket 4K or even 6K, or any number of other great actual real, not phone cameras for that price. If you are buying this purely for video work, then a lot of those other options will give you a better image and a better shooting experience. They just won't fit in your pocket. Now, granted, the iPhone isn't just a video camera, it is a mini personal computer storing the entirety of the world's knowledge in the palm of your hand. It's a video game entertainment system, a movie delivery service, and an interactive map, among many other things. So you can't just attribute its value to what it can film. But for the aspiring filmmakers out there, for people who want to film professional content, it still makes a lot more sense to shoot with those other cameras unless you value total speed and convenience above all else. If you don't need a pocket shooter and you're taking your filmmaking seriously, just buy yourself an awesome, cheap, modern secondhand camera. All right? You fucking crazy gear gooner, just relax. It's not that serious. If you found this video helpful, consider using my affiliate links in the description or lecturing me in the comments on how smartphones will never be real cinema cameras. Whatever helps you sleep at night. As always, I am the savage smartphoner, a now retired filmmaker, and I'll see you when I see you.